The house crouched against the hillside like all the mirrors were still there, every wall lined up, and every door seemed to watch you with a strange intensity. But when you dared to look into the glass, it showed nothing at all, no rooms, no visitors, no bodies, just dark. Deep and endless, like staring through the skin of the world into a void that felt alive, pulling you in, as if it held secrets waiting to be uncovered. Can you imagine the chill that must have crept down your spine? It was as if the house itself had swallowed everything whole, leaving behind only silence and shadows. It was like the mirrors whispered secrets, and he was drawn in, sensing that this place held stories just waiting to be uncovered. Inside, the walls felt heavy with mirrors, so many that it was almost dizzying. Every corridor was lined with reflective surfaces, every door stood watch, and each room seemed to fold in on itself with fractured glass. Tall gilt frames were warped by mildew, cracked ovals caught the light and split it into bruised colors, while warped rectangles stretched their reflections thin like shadows on a summer afternoon. At first, they brushed it off as just odd, quirky relics of some eccentric collector. The father cracked jokes about the vanity of the dead, trying to lighten the mood, while the mother shook her head, a hint of unease creeping in. But it was the boy, just 9 years old, who fell silent first, feeling an odd pull towards something deeper, something he couldn't quite put into words yet, like the whispers of secrets waiting to be uncovered. It was like the mirrors whispered secrets, and he was drawn in, sensing that this place held stories just waiting to be uncovered. One morning, as the fog hung low outside, the boy found himself in the hallway, feeling that eerie chill in the air. He paused in front of a narrow mirror, the kind you'd find in a dorm room, nothing fancy, right? But what he saw wasn't just his reflection. It was something that sent shivers down his spine. Instead of the boy he knew, he saw an older version of himself, pale and ghostly, with a mouth stretched wide in a scream that looked almost unnatural. It was like something out of a horror movie. Behind him, a slick, rain-soaked road loomed, and headlights were coming closer, almost like they were hunting him down. He jerked back, heart racing, but that reflection just kept screaming for what felt like an eternity before snapping back to reality. When he called for his dad, hoping for comfort, the man saw nothing out of the ordinary, just a scared kid staring into a simple piece of glass. How unsettling is that? That night, the boy's dreams morphed into a relentless nightmare, replaying every chilling detail over and over. He could see that slick, wet road shining under the headlights, almost like it was alive, while the car barreled towards him like a predator ready to pounce. His own scream echoed in his ears, raw and desperate, like he was trapped in a horror flick. When he finally jolted awake, drenched in sweat, it felt like that fear was wrapped around him, sticking like a second skin. He couldn't shake the feeling, you know? So he stayed as far away from the hallway as possible, his heart racing at every little sound. The crunch of tires on gravel outside made him jump like a startled rabbit. He was convinced that the nightmare was still lurking just beyond his door, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. It was like he could almost hear that ghostly scream echoing in his mind. And then silence. It was that eerie kind of quiet that makes you shiver. When neighbors finally came to check, the house was empty, utterly empty. All the mirrors were still there, every wall lined up, and every door seemed to watch you with a strange intensity. But when you dared to look into the glass, it showed nothing at all, no rooms, no visitors, no bodies, just dark. Deep and endless, like staring through the skin of the world into a void that felt alive, pulling you in, as if it held secrets waiting to be uncovered. Can you imagine the chill that must have crept down your spine? It was as if the house itself had swallowed everything whole, leaving behind only silence and shadows. Each night, she tried to convince herself it was just fatigue or her wild imagination, but the shapes became sharper, more defined. The water seemed to rise higher, and the candle beside the tub flickered, guttering into darkness. The silence felt heavy, like a coffin lid pressing down on her. Finally, in a desperate attempt to escape the unsettling visions, she draped a sheet over the mirror, only to feel a restless shifting beneath the cloth, as if the reflection was clawing to break free, begging her to look once more. The father mocked them both, his voice tight with liquor and denial, until one night in defiance, he tore the sheet from the parlor mirror, the largest in the house, taller than a man, its surface warped like water trapped under ice, and he stared into it with stubborn fury, demanding to see whatever phantom tormented them, and what stared back was himself, slumped in his armchair, pistol clutched loose in one hand, his head tilted at an impossible angle, mouth slack and dark with the black shine of blood soaking his shirt. He laughed loud to loud, calling it a trick of light, a drunken vision, but in the days after he began to see it everywhere. In the polish of a spoon, the puddle of rainwater outside, the dark gleam of a knife edge, his own death gazing back, quiet, inevitable. The mirrors multiplied in their minds, no longer just reflections trapped in glass frames. Instead, they spread like shadows, creeping into every shiny surface around them. The boy, feeling a chill in his bones, avoided windows at all costs, convinced that the darkness would reveal something far worse than any headlights could ever show. His mother, seeking solace, bathed only in pitch black, her hands trembling in the cold water, washing away not just dirt, but her fears in silence. Meanwhile, the father slept with curtains tightly drawn, yet in his dreams, the mirror loomed above him like a door he could never close, a haunting reminder of the past he couldn't escape. When they finally tried to leave, in the middle of the night with bags hastily packed, the road curled back upon itself, each turn delivering them again to the house squatting in the fog, its windows faintly aglow as though lit from within by something that breathed, something patient. Again and again they drove, and again the house returned, until the father roared and slammed the wheel, and the boy whispered from the back seat that he saw their reflections running alongside the car in the dark pale faces, pressed against the glass, laughing without sound. By the final week, they no longer trusted their own eyes. Sometimes their reflections smiled when they did not, blinked when they had not, spoke words they could not hear. Sometimes they looked into a mirror and saw not themselves, but empty rooms, strangers, funerals with their own coffins lowered into dirt. The boy stopped eating. The mother stopped speaking. The father stopped sleeping. At night the mirrors breathed audibly, fogging as though something exhaled from within. The sheets slipped from the frames, though no hand touched them, and every reflection leaned closer, closer, as though ready to step out. And then silence. It was that eerie kind of quiet that makes you shiver. When neighbors finally came to check, the house was empty, utterly empty. All the mirrors were still there, every wall lined, every door eerily watched. But when you looked into the glass, it showed nothing at all, no rooms, no visitors, no bodies, just dark. Deep and endless, like staring through the skin of the world into a void that felt alive, pulling you in. Sometimes, travelers can help but swear they see strange shapes lurking behind the glass, like small hands pressing against the surface, a woman's pale face peering through, or a man with a pistol fading into shadow. It's as if the mirrors hold on to these moments, waiting patiently, almost hungrily, for the next curious eyes brave enough to meet their gaze. What stories do they hold? What secrets are they hiding? It's eerie and fascinating, don't you think?